issues. If anyone wants to tweet, then please do go ahead. We've got a Twitter feed live on the side here. And so without further ado, Chris.
So I'm here to talk to you today about social CRM. My name's Chris Heffer, chrisheffer.com @theotherhef if you're interested. Right. So, brief introduction. I work for a company called SAP. I've got a couple of roles. One of them's to do with software sales. I'm sort of the specialist guy in the UK in terms of our social offerings. The other side of it is sort of an internal evangelist in terms of using social and why you should use it. I run some sort of internal workshops and seminars and one-to-one sessions to try and get people within the company to understand the benefits of why they should use it as individuals. I do a bit of blogging and a bit of speaking, and I contribute to a number of different blogs around the web. Who knows who SAP? Put your hand up. You've ever heard of SAP? I was kind of assuming that nobody would know, so it's good that some of you know. SAP are a fairly big organisation. You generally wouldn't have heard of us unless you work in IT. We're obviously expanding more into business functions, but a lot of the work we've done historically for the last 40 years or so, we've been with the IT folk. So we've got 60,000 employees, 130 countries we operate in, and 14.2 billion euro turnover, so a fairly sizable organisation. One of the things which I'm quite proud of is that there's a Forbes list of the top 10 most innovative companies. Although SAP aren't in them, we supply the technology that makes 9 out of 10 of those companies innovative. So we're quite kind of cutting edge in terms of what we supply to our customers and how we can help them be innovative. And if you notice, it's all within an iPad window, right? So a lot of the stuff we do is enabling businesses to operate run their businesses on a mobile technology. Enough of the sales pitch, I won't mention SAP again. So what is CRM? Hands up who knows what CRM is. Okay, again, I was told that nobody would know, so it's going to be sort of a little bit of a starter idea on what CRM is. So CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management. Now typically it's a lot in business-to-business environments, or in a B2C environment if you require some kind of registration process or some kind of complicated sale where you need to keep track of who your customers are. I'm going to give you a little example to try and clarify that bit. So if you're a one-man band, or one customer, it's very easy for you to understand all of the relationship things that are going on between you as a business and your customer. As you get a little bit more successful, you obviously get more customers. So when you've got 3 customers and 1 employee, it's still fairly easy to kind of keep track of what's going on, who's bought what, how we market to them, what kind of service are we providing. As your business expands and you now have 2 members of staff and 6 customers, all of a sudden you see the number of lines that are going in between the various different people. It's a lot more to keep track of. When you start to have 3 employees, 1 in sales, 1 in marketing and 1 in service, and you've got 12 customers, all of a sudden you start to see what a kind of mess that you would have if everyone needed to know about every single customer. As businesses expand and they have more employees and more customers, obviously this process gets a lot more complicated. So CRM kind of steps in. That middle box should have CRM on it. CRM steps in the middle to manage the relationship between the business and the customers. So any one person that works within the organisation has a good understanding of everything that's going on with every customer. So whether it's someone in the sales department trying to sell something new to them, whether it's the marketing department trying to promote some new products or services to them, or someone in the service department, maybe customer service, hello, my product's broken or it needs fixing or what have you. So all of these people get like a unified view of what the customers are doing and how they're interacting with the business. Obviously, as your company expands, you get more staff and more employees. Sorry, more staff and more customers. The CRM system should hopefully scale with that growth. So typically, this is the kind of information that you'd have within a CRM system. So fairly kind of fundamental, simple kind of data. Things like name, contact details. What have they bought from you? How have you marketed to them? Maybe what mailing lists they're on. Have you sent them out a campaign about buy one, get one free, or whatever it is you're trying to do? Also, what kind of customer service history have you got with this company, so with this customer? So it could be they've called up and complained about something. It could be that they've got a problem with X, Y, Z and they need some help with it. But typically, this is the kind of information that companies have about their customers. Social networks have come along and added a lot more information to what you can understand about your customers. So typically, this is the kind of stuff which you could quite easily glean from Facebook or another social network. You know, what do they like? Where have they been? Who they're friends with? What are they talking about? Who do they influence? What products do they talk about? What are their desires? Where do they live? What's their current location? Where are they right now? How old they are? What's their relationship status? Most companies couldn't even tell you if it's a male or a female, unless there's a field set up in their CRM system to do that. So there's a lot more information going on about out there in the web about your customers. The real power is if you can link these two things together. So if you can find a way of taking the information which is traditionally held in a CRM system, you know, the very transactional data about what have you sold to them and how have they interacted with you as a company, and link that to the information you get from the social web. You know, what do they like, what are their desires, where have they been? You can obviously get a much better picture of what's going on with that customer. Maybe you can see that they've liked something on Facebook, which might indicate that they might want to buy something from you. So maybe pass that on as a sales lead to your sales team, something like that. So I want to tell you a quick story. I met my girlfriend's nan for the first time last week. And she asked me, what do you do? And I was going to say I work in IT and just like change the subjects because I didn't want to explain what social media was. My girlfriend pipes up and goes, yeah, he's a speaker, he does blogging, he goes and sits on panels and talks about social media. And she goes, what the hell is social media? So I tried to come up with a way in which I could explain to her what I think social media is. So I used an example of a local butcher's. So I said, rewind 50 or 60 years ago, she's about 85-ish. I said to her, just picture this guy on the left-hand side, his name's John. So John's your local butcher. So when you go and see John every week, he knows what you bought last week, and he'll have a conversation with you, he knows who you are. So he'll go, how's the kids, and how's your husband, and all of this kind of stuff. He knows that you bought some pork chops last week. So then you start having a conversation, what are you up to at the weekend? And this lady might say, I've got some family coming around for dinner on Sunday. So he recommends, you know what, if you'd like that pork chop last week, we've got this great bit of beef joint. And John actually cares about this person. This is not like Amazon, if customers have bought this, might like to buy this. You know, John actually cares about who you are as an individual. He knows about you as a person. And it's not just it's just a recommendation based on some algorithm. This is a guy who actually cares about who you are. I said to my girlfriend's nan, I try to get that kind of relationship and scale it to a much larger level. So whereas an enterprise or a business can have that same kind of personal relationship with obviously a much larger group of people, rather than John and his 25 or 30 or 100 customers that come in every week. So I'm going to talk to you about the difference between a traditional CRM, which is a B2C or a B2B kind of environment. And if I go to the bottom diagram, a lot of companies face a challenge. If they sell through a retailer, through a distributor, something like that, there's a wall between the business that's selling it and the person or consumer that's consuming the service. So there's a bit of a block between the business and the person who's actually consuming whatever it is, that product, service that's going on. So who faces these kind of challenges? Well, anyone that sells through a distributor or for a retailer, TV channels, production companies, anybody that doesn't have a touch point with the actual consumer. But more often than not, it's actually pretty much everyone that does business. Not many people actually know who their customers are. Even if you've got a CRM system from anyone, SAP or anyone else, you probably don't actually know that much about your customers. So you don't know the fact that they like chocolate or whatever they decide to tell you on their Facebook page. So even if you sell directly to them, even companies that are really good, like, I don't know, Tesco's, right? So they've got the club cards set up. They don't actually know much about their customers other than what they buy. So that Tesco's can't tell that their customers like something that they don't buy from them. They can only rely on the information that they've got about them from their club card data, for example. So I'm going to talk to you about a potential use case, how I sort of see CRM systems being used in the future. So a typical use case, I'm going to use an example of Lucozade trying to sell to the customers. So these are the customers that actually drink Lucozade. The retailer could be Tesco's, Sainsbury's, or anyone like that. So typically, Lucozade would have a CRM system which managed the relationship between their business and the people that they sell to, as in Tesco's, Sainsbury's, all of those kind of companies. The kind of data that Tesco's would give Lucozade about who's actually drinking their products would be called point of sale data. So every time you buy something, Tesco's obviously recording who's buying it, where are they buying it from, what are the quantities, all that kind of stuff. Tesco's will happily sell this back to Lucozade, but they charge money for it. And it's quite a lot of money. So this is the power that the retailers have over somebody who's selling products like Lucozade. So for those of you who have probably worked in any company that does anything with social media, you've probably got some kind of social media analytics tool, something like your Radian 6s, them kind of products. What they will give you is the kind of information that says, I don't know, 60% of the people are saying good things about your product, 40% are saying neutral, or that doesn't quite add up to 100, but 30, and 20 are saying different things about your product. So you haven't really got any idea of much detail other than sort of lumping people into this bucket, or that bucket. So I'm going to talk to you an example about how Lucozade could launch a product, such as their new flavour of blackcurrant. So we go back to this diagram here. So people are talking on Twitter about this new product. So this guy's saying, I love the new Lucozade flavour. The new Lucozade flavour is wicked. The new flavour of Lucozade is my favourite, but this guy down here, not interested in the new flavour, can't beat Red Bull. Now, if you've got people who don't like your products or are not buying them, there's not really any way of marketing to that person individually. So I've got a kind of use case as to how I feel you could use social data in a CRM system to help to understand this guy here on Twitter, Niels on Wheels, how can we make him how can we market to him as an individual to get rid of the retailer and get more idea of what the customers are actually talking about. So this is the guy we're going to concentrate on. So this is Niels on Wheels. So these are the things I can find out about him. He likes Tony Hawk. He watches the Extreme Sports Channel. He plays on an Xbox. He likes the Tony Hawk game. He goes to his local skate park in Victoria Park 2 to 3 times a week. He visits the UK skateboarding website. He likes DC shoes. And his favourite place in the world is Del Mar Skate Park in California, because that's where Tony Hawk's favourite skate park is. Now you might think, how the hell do we know this kind of information? Which leads you on to the next slide. So this was the initial tweet. So just by clicking onto Niels on Wheels, we can start to see what else he's been talking about just through Twitter. So we know he likes Tony Sports and we know he likes the Extreme Sports Channel because he said, just saw Tony Hawk on the Extreme Sports Channel. He's my idol. Right? So we're starting to build up a picture of things about this guy. Next bit of information. How do we know he likes Xbox? Because he tweeted, can't be bothered to go to college today. All I want to do is play on my Xbox. How do we know he likes this game? Looking forward to playing the new Tony Hawk Xbox game. So how do we know we go to the skate park 2 to 3 times a week? Well, because every time he goes to the skate park, he tweets about something, and it's got a geotag on it, which is basically like a way of knowing where somebody was when they tweeted that tweet. So we can know where he was tweeting and how many times has he been there in a week. We know he likes these products because he was tweeting about some guy was wearing it at the skate park and he likes them. We know he goes to this website because he was sharing some links about an article which was on that website. And we know he likes this skate park because he just saw Tony Hawk skating on a video on YouTube. So we can start to understand a lot more about this guy. So we can start trying to understand, well, if we want to sell our Lucozade products to this guy, what do we need to do? So what do we do with this information? Well, I've kind of come up with a fake marketing campaign as to how we could use that data to try and understand how we can try and sell our products to this guy. So I kind of come up with this idea of a Lucozade skate competition. So this guy is obviously, Niels on Wheels, he's obviously into skateboarding. Like most people his age, he's probably spent a lot of time on YouTube and he'd probably be quite keen to sort of share what kind of skills and watch videos about other people doing tricks and stuff on YouTube. So we launched some kind of skating competition on YouTube, so that he can upload the videos of him doing his best trick, and other people do that as well. And then we get some kind of like a rating or ranking, so people can vote which ones are the best tricks. Obviously, if we're going to do a competition, we need some kind of prizes, so we can figure out what sort of things would motivate this guy to kind of get involved. So we could say maybe we can go and meet Tony Hawk. Maybe we can organise a trip to California to go to the skate park to meet Tony Hawk. Maybe we do a deal with DC Shoes to give away some of their products. Maybe the new Xbox game, or maybe some Xboxes we can give away. So all of a sudden, we've started to position Lucozade with other things that this guy is interested in, that he wants to know about. Also, we know whereabouts we can promote this kind of campaign. So we know he visits his website, we know that he goes to the skate park 2 or 3 times a week, and he knows we watch the Extreme Sports channel. So we could maybe put some advertising on the Extreme Sports channel, we could do some kind of banner advertising or whatever on this website, or maybe some posters or something around the skate park, maybe somewhere between the train station and the skate park, whatever. So we're starting to figure out how we can target this one individual person. So then what? So we could track this kind of campaign through any kind of process that you might have as a company. So I've just used this one as a fairly kind of a common way of tracking somebody through a process. So awareness, interest, desire, and action. So we can track to see whether he's aware of this competition. So he's just tweeted, "Can't believe Lucozade is sponsoring a skate competition." So he's aware of it. He doesn't like it necessarily, but he's aware of it. So then we can keep track. The Lucozade skate competition prizes look cool. So he's interested now. So we can track the next step down this kind of funnel. Desire. I would love to go to California and meet Tony Hawk. Might have to enter the Lucozade skate competition. And then action, just submitting my trick to the Lucozade skate competition. Vote for me, and there's a link. So we can start to track his progress through this cycle. So obviously before he didn't want to buy Lucozade, now he's starting to get to the stage where he's buying into kind of what Lucozade's about and why he'd want to do business with them. So the results are, you get a much more personalised way of doing business with somebody, which is specific to that individual. It's a lot more targeted, so you're actually targeting with information and a marketing campaign which is of interest to him. You've got the ability to monitor how well it's actually working on an individual basis. And you've got an opportunity to acquire more customers that you potentially wouldn't have had previously. Obviously, I've done this on a sort of one-to-one basis. You wouldn't get a company like Lucozade to do a massive marketing campaign around one person, but if you could identify that there was, 500,000 people that was very similar to this guy, then potentially you could understand who you'd want to market. Potentially in the future, there might be ways of making it even more specific. So even massive companies could be doing one-to-one marketing campaigns with everybody. The more you can understand about somebody, the more you can market to them and actually get their interest, because it's things that they're interested in. Three other very quick examples. So who watches Britain's Got Talent? Well, I see 2 hands going up. One little hand at the back. Come on, who watches Britain's Got Talent? I'm not ashamed to admit.
There we are.
3. So Britain's Got talent show on ITV1. So they've started using hashtags in their live broadcasts. So hashtag now with wings. So I've kind of got this concept of how this information could be used to generate more money for ITV. Because they know who's talking about their product or their programme, they can understand a percentage of the audience that's watching. So rather than them selling advertising based upon, we think these demographics are watching your programme, maybe, 5% of the audience might be tweeting about them. So you can analyse whether it's Meals on Wheels or whoever else it might be that's tweeting about them. You can figure out specifically who is talking to them. On that basis, you could look at the history about what they've been tweeting about, just like we did with Meals on Wheels. You could figure out that maybe I was watching it and I was tweeting about BMW, Budweiser and Chelsea, and maybe ITV could provision adverts that are specific to the people who are actually watching. So you could sell much more targeted advertising to the individuals that were watching. I think phase one would be look at it retrospectively and do it like who was watching the last week's show, therefore we're going to advertise to that bunch of people next time. But in the future, if the technology could keep up, who's to say you couldn't have real-time adverts based upon every single person that's watching? If Sky somehow could figure out how to do the kind of broadcast technology, potentially every single person that was watching could get a personalised bunch of adverts. So instead of you watching 5 adverts, which could be for things that you're not interested in buying, potentially you could get 5 adverts for things that you actually were looking at buying or actually are definitely interested in. Another example is in a retail store. So I've used an example of Topshop. So Sally walks into Topshop and she buys an outfit. So she buys a necklace, a dress and a pair of shoes. So on the bottom of her receipt, when she goes to the till, she spends £50 and there's a QR code on the bottom. So Sally's got a Topshop app and she can scan the QR code that's on the bottom of the receipt. And what it does is it shares to Facebook what it is that she's bought. So Sally's just bought this dress with a pair of shoes and it enters her into a Topshop stylist leaderboard. So she's kind of becoming like a stylist, and people can vote for the combination of items that she's put together, how good she is. So she gets entered into a leaderboard, so 154 people like this, which puts her second in the leaderboard. So obviously the benefits are Topshop are getting people more talking about their brands and products through social networks, and Sally's getting a lot of credibility and kudos from all of her friends for being the most stylish person in the UK. Once you've got this kind of information, potentially Topshop could get these people who have been identified as the most stylish people to maybe have some influence into what they're stocking in their next lines. So rather than a bunch of people sitting in their head office, why don't they invite their 10 most influential customers to come in and give them some feedback on what they think should be stocked next season. Maybe invite them to fashion shows, something like that. So the next thing would be to do. Sally's friends with Nina. So Nina goes into the same high street fashion store and buys the dress. So it rings up at the till and it's £20. So Nina's bought the new dress, and on the bottom of her receipt it says, "Thanks for your purchase. Your friend Sally thinks these shoes might go well with your new dress. Here's a 20% off voucher." Now, being a guy, I didn't realise what the problem is with this. If your girl mate, if you're a girl and your girl mate's got the same dress as you, you're probably not going to want to buy it, all right? I didn't quite suss this one out until I showed it to someone, but they pointed out that if your friend's got the same dress, you probably won't even want to buy it. So maybe if Topshop wanted to build up trust with their customers, maybe you should say, "Do you know what? Sally's got the same dress. Maybe you should buy something else." I know you're actually turning business away, but how much trust and credibility and sort of honesty is that going to sort of spread? You know, you're trying to choose this dress or this dress, and you know your best mate's already bought that dress, unknown to you. So potentially it could do that, or maybe just suggest maybe in a different colour. But either way, it's using the kind of the buying behavioural data that we're kind of gleaning from her friends, who she's friends with on Facebook. Or it could just simply say, "Sally's bought the same dress as you. We can see you're going to the same event on Saturday night because it says on Facebook. Make sure you check with her you're not wearing the same dress." So that's the kind of personalised level of service that potentially you could start to gather from using social data in a CRM system. I think that is the last my slide, so I'm more than happy to take any questions. Someone's got any.
How do you deal with people that put kind of wrong information or don't religiously kind of update their social media posts? So some people just post a load of rubbish or kind of don't put truthful statements on there. Is there any mechanism to deal with that? Because if you sort of rely on that for marketing,
I mean, it's like saying if someone puts the wrong email address into a form, you know, you can't market to them. Well, I guess there's certain things to say. If I put in an email address that's not at gmail.com or at hotmail.com, then websites, I guess, can figure out that's not a proper email address. But you know, if someone puts in their name is not what their actual name is, there's no real way of kind of doing that. I guess you've just got to try and encourage people or let them know what the benefits are of doing it. You know, there's a lot of people are scared about giving out information to companies because they don't know what they're going to do with it. If you could up front tell somebody, if you give me this information, this is the good thing you're going to get out of it. they'll probably be more likely to give you the correct information in the first place. If they, first of all, trusted you, and second of all, knew what you was going to do with that information. So I guess there's no way of necessarily knowing if it's right or not, but if you can demonstrate to somebody what you're going to do with it and why they should trust you, then hopefully you'll just make sure they give you the right information in the first place.
Chris, that's a really good segue actually into the privacy stroke data protection element, because I think what we'll be talking later on in the legal section is that the touchstone for privacy using the data is consent, and that mechanism is starting to evolve at a worldwide level. And it's good for customers that people know what's going to happen with their data. But if they feel that they know they're in control and can direct, then they're likely to trust you more and give you more information. So I think it is a win-win where if you have the appropriately designed mechanisms to respect people's privacy and tell them what you can and can't do and the benefits to them, I think that the benefit back to the organisation is that they can get much better data.
I think that's a big thing. I think companies need to be more honest, open and transparent in the way that they do business. And if you can, if you are more honest about what you're going to do with that data, maybe you get less registrants, but the people that do register actually care about whatever it is that you want to give them. So if you say, if you give me this data, this is what I'm going to give you in return, I don't know, a more personalised service, or I'm going to make sure you don't buy the same dress as your friends, right? Maybe that's the kind of thing which people are going to buy into and say, well, I'm happy to give this information because I'm going to get this in return.
Does anybody have any further questions for Chris? Okay, well, I'm delighted to welcome Alpesh Doshi from Intricity.
Pass the Olympic baton to you.
Hello.
Alpesh.
There we go. I'm going to talk in a bit more detail about some of the data and some of the mechanisms behind Chris's initial presentation. I'm not going to get very technical because obviously I could get very technical, but I won't. Which it's this one. There we go. So, how many of you know what social data is? You know, when you hear the word social, everybody thinks they know what it is. You know, what do you understand by social data? Does anybody have any particular views or comments or thoughts what social data is? Anybody? Come on. Go on.
What we do.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So it's all the information that can be gleaned from whether it's Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, any of the social networks around their behaviours, their interests, their likes.
That's good.
Those that they're connected to, those that they influence.
Yeah. So as Lawrence said, there's a whole set of data out there. It's not just Twitter and Facebook, but actually web data. It's all available. Any data that you guys put out into a public website is accessible by anybody. So that's social data. Belinda will talk about the legal issues around it. But the important thing is there's lots of data that's available, which is publicly available. There's lots of data in large enterprises, which is only available to them. And there's also data you can buy from third parties. So companies like Experian, for example, I don't know how many of you know Experian, actually sell lots of data about you